Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we want to talk about the life of Pi. Now this starts with the very beautiful scenes of a zoo. So this is a zoo in India and belongs to the family of Pi, the protagonist of the movie. We're taken forward in time actually, and that is to his house in Canada. He lives with his family, and there's a Canadian reporter who wants to interview him about his life. Very interesting story that could potentially be a report or a book. Now, the first question is where does the name Pi originate from? And this is nothing to do with mathematics. It's actually a name that the family friend or uncle, I don't know if that's a family friend or actually his mom or dad's brother, but he was very fond of piscine, which is a swimming pool in French. He went to a swimming pool in France, and he was very fond of it, suggested this name for Pi. I don't know why he was involved in the naming process of Pi, but he was. Now, because of that, he gets bullied at school because, of course, piscine in English, this sounds similar to pissing, and that was the reason he was bullied at school. But then he does overcome that by memorizing all the decimal numbers of Pi, and suddenly he is able to command respect. Now, what else do we know? So the idea is that the story of Pi's life is so inspiring and that it would make you believe in God. Now, this is the Jardin Botanique, which is the botanical garden, as it were, the zoo of Pi's family. Now, we also get a bit of a backstory, and that's Pi was actually born in this zoo because his mom went into labor. And it was such short notice that they couldn't take it to the hospital, and the vet who was on site helped deliver the baby. So how different could it be? Bill Pi had many interests. So one of his interests was religion. He subscribed to all religions. So he effectively was interested in all the Hindu religions. He was also interested in Abrahamic religions. He subscribed to Christianity, Islam, and also Buddhism. Now, another side note is that his mom was from a different caste in the Indian society, wasn't effectively allowed to marry Pi's dad at the time. But then she did, and she was disowned by her family. So the religion she followed was the only contact and only link she had to her past. Then again, Pi, as I mentioned, is very interested in religion. He goes and talks to a priest in a church, and he also prays, so he's a Muslim as well. And one day at the dinner table, the dad says to him, well, this can't be, you can't subscribe to, you can't believe in every single religion out there. You have to, it's good that you're trying to think about things, but then you have to pick one. And then his mum says, well, he's just investigating at the moment. Hopefully he'll make his mind up. So they're quite a nice family. Now, some other thing happens. Himself and his brother, so little Pi and his brother, were fascinated by the animals in the zoo, but their most precious animal was a Bengal tiger. And one day they go on, supposedly try to feed him a piece of meat, and suddenly the dad arrives and pulls him away and tells him off. The reason is that, of course, he points out to his two children that a tiger is never going to be your friend. A tiger is a predator, and if you get very close to this cage, he might actually see you as bait and eat you, which is actually very true. And he uses a little baby goat as an example that the tiger slaughters, and it leaves quite a dramatic mark on the children. But of course, he wanted to make that point that never get close to this predatory animal, because that's all he knows. He's looking for food and he will slaughter you. But he's taken to a dance class. I don't know why, but then he likes one of the girls there. So the lead dancer, so the girl in red. And what do you think he does? He follows her after school. And, well, normally women don't appreciate that, but this girl did like it. Now, he gets a bit of a devastating news. Now he's fallen in love with this new girl. And but then the dad says, we're not doing very well with the zoo and we need to pack up and go to Canada. And he's bought tickets on a cargo ship to Canada, and they're going. This does happen, and of course both the girl and Pi are heartbroken because they know that he's going away, and Pi does promise to come back someday for her. The next scene is in the cargo ship, and of course they brought all the belongings, anything they could sell they sold, and then they packed up all the animals into the cargo ship. Then they go to dinner that night, and there's quite an obnoxious and rude cook. And of course, because Pi's family are vegetarian, they don't want little sausages, and they ask for a vegetarian platter. Takes the sausage from the plate and just dumps it back into the pot. And this stirs up a bit of a fight between Pi's dad and the cook, but yeah, so that there's them fighting, but then other people separate them. And then we hear from a Buddhist person who is also vegetarian, who says to them, you can have the rice with gravy, because gravy is only taste and it should be fine. Such a bad place because of the fighting, and also this whole drama of moving everything, all the belongings across the seas to Canada. Now we also get a snap of the cargo hold where the animals are. The dad gives them bananas with tranquilizers because he doesn't want them to panic and get sick. Now that night they go to bed, and Pi goes up to the deck of the ship, and he realizes there's quite a storm out there. Unfortunately, the storm is massive and it capsizes the ship, and the vast majority of people die. Now, because Pi was awake, he manages to get on a boat, which was quite a miracle. If he was asleep, he would die as well. But unfortunately, he loses his entire family. This is also him seeing the ship sinking. Now, there's nothing he can do, of course. This is something that is way beyond his power. And he just swims up to the top, and of course he's on this rowboat. But actually the animals of the zoo, quite interestingly. So the only human left is Pi, and he hangs from this pole. Now, what kind of animals do we have? We have an orangutan, we have a hyena and a zebra, and also we have one human being, that is Pi, not known to the other creatures in the boat. Apart from the three animals I mentioned, there's another animal there. Okay, so that's the fight between the orangutan, the zebra and the hyena. But unfortunately, the hyena does injure the zebra and kill it, but also the orangutan is pretty injured. Yeah, and he attacks it. But there's nothing Pi can do. But there's one remaining animal who does not make an appearance until now, and that is the Bengal tiger. It was Richard Parker. Now, the backstory about the naming of this tiger is that he was brought to the zoo as a cub, and the person or the hunter who had found him, when he found him, he realized he was very thirsty, and the tiger drank a lot of water, so he named him Thirsty. But when registering the animal at the zoo, the names got switched. The tiger was named Richard Parker, which was the name of the hunter, and the hunter was named Thirsty. So it was quite funny and the name stuck. Now, the new drama that Pi is facing is that the Bengal tiger is now in the rowboat and he is frightened and of course cannot stay in the same rowboat as him. So he makes himself though inflatable here from a life buoy, and now he has to get used to it because of course he can't be in the same boat as the tiger. He finds rats as well, and also there's some food on the rowboat. So here he found a rat, which he of course feeds to the Bengal tiger. This is Pi. He's taken some supplies from the boat. So there were some biscuits and water. There were other things like a pencil and a notepad, and he's using it now. With the pencil and notepad, he's writing stuff, and also he's keeping tab on the number of days he's spending he's not on the rowboat, he's made himself a little raft. Then we hit this very still water. It doesn't look like an ocean, it looks like a mill pond, and although very beautiful, but probably is not very realistic for, even the calmest sea will still have some waves. Now, again, he's on his little raft, but he's attached with a rope to the rowboat. He's reading whatever pieces of information and booklets that came with the rowboat. Different things, how many bottles of water, how many biscuits, and he's reading all the instructions. So some of the instructions said that, keep active, but not too active to exhaust yourself, establish a community, and useful information like that. And also he's trying to tame the Bengal tiger. I don't know if that is possible or not, because he knows that if he can associate a certain sound with choppy waters and the seasickness of Richard Parker, but the Bengal tiger, maybe this way he can control him later. Now, several instances he tries to confront the tiger, but of course he's he's still too weak mentally and physically to fight the tiger. Keeping himself active and wary of the Bengal tiger. Bengal tiger gets hungry, and at some point he does dive into the water to get some fish. This is a perfect opportunity for our protagonist Pi to come back into the rowboat, and he does. And now the tiger realizes that he has no way back into the rowboat. And, if I were Pi, I wouldn't let him back in, because now at least he has the luxury of the rowboat. He doesn't have to, sleep on a makeshift inflatable. But then he doesn't do that. He allows Richard Parker to come back, because at least he is an enemy, but he's to some extent a companion. Now, therefore, in order to prevent the Bengal tiger from eating him, he needs to find a way of feeding him. Now, remember that they didn't even want to have any meat or a sausage, never mind fish, but now he is so desperate, he's hungry, and also he needs to feed a tiger, so that he does stab a fish to death, and and you will have to eat it. So that's survival for you there. The cinematography of this movie is exquisite. We have the most beautiful pictures of the sea. Then we also have a whale who does a backflip. It just seems to be a very large amount of traffic passing under this rowboat and the inflatable. But anyways, pretty amazing. Now, some other day, they encountered these flying fish. And of course, this is a dream come true for both of them, because of course, Pi has been able to feed the Bengal tiger, and the Bengal tiger will, at least for now, will not attack him. But then this changes, of course. Now, they were trying to establish a dynamic, like as time passes by, Pi is been able to be more assertive. Like here, he shouts at the Bengal tiger, and the tiger hides under the canvas. But then he can't take any chances because, it's an animal, a wild predator that cannot be trusted. And again, more time passes by, and this is the beautiful ocean I was telling you about. He sees these most amazing fish that go by. And he also dreams of the ship and his family. Now they've hit very, very choppy waters. Well, he has to come back to the rowboat, doesn't he? Anyway, they manage to live through this, but they're both very, very weak. And they're close to dying, of course, both from hunger and thirst. And they're sort of given up, but miraculously they land on an island. And again, a dream come true for both of them. There are quite a few meerkats on this island, and Richard Parker eats as many as he can. And also there's quite a beautiful pond there, and Pi is able to swim in it, drink water, and he eats as much fruit and veg that he can find on the island. Now, the island had a bit of a secret. Now, he realizes that the animals don't like to stay on the floor of the island during the night. And he doesn't realize why, but then because these animals have a very strong instinct, he does do the same. He realizes that what the island gives during the day, it takes back during the night. And the island was carnivorous. He finds a human tooth as well. So some poor person who landed in this island and was eaten by the island. Then he finally decides that he needs to go, because although he knows how to live on this island and there's quite a lot of food and vegetables and stuff that he can live on, and also the Bengal tiger will have as many meerkats as he wants, but it's not where he wants to remain long term. They both pack up and go, and eventually they land in Mexico. Now, eventually he musters up the courage to get off the rowboat. And something happens, of course, people find him, but before that, the Bengal tiger also gets off the rowboat, and he doesn't really look at Pi and just goes into the forest. And this really breaks Pi's heart, because he had formed a bit of a bond with the Bengal tiger, just didn't even look back for a second to bring their friendship to an end, and this really broke his heart. And then his dad's advice did resonate with him, that the Bengal tiger is a predator, he's not your friend. So the friendship was only in Pi's heart and not the Bengal tiger's. And the Canadian reporter is quite mesmerized by the story. Now, of course, Pi is taken to a hospital, and then insurance people from the cargo ship come and speak to him about the sinking of the ship and what happened to him. He was at sea for 80, 90 days, maybe more. And he does talk about the story of the animals that were originally in the rowboats, and also the Bengal tiger and what happened. So first of all, the hyena killed the zebra and the orangutan, and the Bengal tiger killed the hyena. But of course, these people don't want to hear about this. They want a believable story. And of course, he told them about this mysterious island that no one has ever heard about. So it's not very clear if this is a fragment of Pi's imagination, like to what extent is any of this true. So he changes the story in that he said that we actually, the hyena I told you about was that cook who was not very nice. The orangutan was his mom. Zebra was a sailor, and the cook killed both his mom and the sailor, and he, the Bengal tiger, Pi, the Bengal tiger, killed the cook, the hyena. And they're satisfied with this story and go. Anyway, I think this movie is definitely worth a watch. Thank you.